to the RioKnits podcast. My name is Rhiannon and I'm coming to you from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I live with my wife and cat. Today's episode is going to be a little unusual. It's going to be very short. I just have a couple kind of whip updates that I wanted to share, and I wanted to let you know that I'm going to be sharing a series of shorter videos this month for the unofficial holiday Me Made May. So if you're not familiar with Me Made May, it's just a month where people who sew and knit and otherwise make their own clothes celebrate all of the things that they have made. So I'm going to be presenting kind of a series about my slow fashion journey. But this is just a regular episode. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm wearing the knitted tee that I made, and it's THIT. I made this last summer. It was my first successful like summer top that I knit, and I made it out of Holst Coast, which is a wool and cotton blend. So it has kind of the properties of wool in that it's a little, you know, the yarn is a little sticky and it keeps its shape well, but then it's got kind of the light coolness of cotton. I really love this. This is one of my absolute favorite garments that I've ever made. It has this really cool intarsia on one shoulder effect, and I'll just show you. So it has a nice neck that I think is not too high and not too tight, but it just sits nicely, you know, it's more of a high neck kind of thing. It's got short sleeves, which you could totally modify, and it's very cropped. I'm also wearing a skirt that I made from a very simple pattern with an Ankara fabric. So another one of my favorite things to wear. So I am wearing Me Made's pretty much head to toe. Of course, I have like a camisole underneath. I didn't make that, etc. So, and I should say I'm drinking Valentine's coffee, which is the Costa Rica kind. So Valentine's is a local Milwaukee coffee roaster. I'm sorry, you can hear the siren probably. But it's a local coffee roaster, and in my opinion, it's the best in town. I really love it. And I've been pretty much buying their coffee since I got here, and they have many exquisite blends, but they're all like very drinkable on a daily basis. So today I brewed some extra strong so I could make an iced coffee, and it's really good because it is hot. So if this is your first time here, welcome. I just moved to Wisconsin late last fall, and this will be my first kind of spring summer here. It was winter for a very long time. I was really enjoying how spring was coming on kind of slowly. You could see buds on trees, there were flowers blooming in yards, and every day everyone's lawn just got a bit greener without anybody doing anything. And it was pretty amazing to see how even when it was very cold, suddenly it was starting to be green. And no one told me that there were 80 bajillion robins in the Midwest, so that's kind of delightful because they're just running around and being cute all the time. My neighbor has a robin's nest that's like up, sitting on like a drain pipe. It's like up on top of it where it bends. You know, the ones that go up along the wall and then they kind of bend out. There's a little robin's nest in that nook, and there's little babies, and it's really sweet. There are goslings at the park. It's really nice. And I was just like, okay, this is spring. It's just this long, slow progression to summer. No. One day it just decided to be 90 degrees, and it was so hot. And I'm also becoming like really familiar with the lake effect because I live in Milwaukee proper. And so if you are unfamiliar with the territory, as you may be, Milwaukee is a city that is very like north to south. It's a very vertical city in the way that the urban growth boundary has happened. So Most of the city is not so far from the lake, but the minute you go, you know, 10 minutes west, or like I've been going to Madison periodically for work, you go to Madison, it is like way hotter. So the lake does keep it cooler. And my job has 2 offices, one in Milwaukee, one in Madison. When I go to the Milwaukee one, I'm closer to the lake, and it is like even cooler than at home. So I mean, really, it could be, you know, 90 degrees in Madison, 80 where I am at, and then 75 down kind of downtown near the lake. So it's pretty wild how that, you know, enormous Lake Michigan affects the climate. And yeah, but it just got hot, like all of a sudden. I honestly feel like this sweater might even be a little thick for this weather. And so I'm thinking about knitting another summer top with the same yarn, but just instead of holding it double for this gauge, just do it at the original. Like, it's a light fingering weight yarn, so make something very light and airy, because I really like it. I like how it, you know, again, holds its shape and everything, and it looks nice, but man, it is really, really warm here. And you know, I do try to like keep my shoulders covered, because as much as I love feeling a breeze on my arms, I do not want to be sunburned ever. So the best way to do that is to just cover up. So what am I knitting? Let's talk about that. Well, I may have told you last time I was making these socks, the wildflower and honeycomb socks. I just pulled the needle out and gave up on these. And I'm gonna frog this and just probably knit a sock tube at some point with this yarn, because my favorite part of it is the bottom of the foot, this beautiful stockinette. The more I looked at it, the more I thought there's no situation in my life where I'm gonna want a sock that has so many eyelets, so much lace on the front. If I put it in a shoe, I know that it would snag on something. That's just who I am as a person. I wasn't liking the heel. I think the heel, I mean, this is very bizarre looking. I mean, it's just, yeah. And I ended up having to add many rows, because when I do this kind of honeycomb pattern, it makes it short and wide. So you don't want a heel to be short and wide. That just kind of doesn't work for me. So there was just a lot about this pattern that, you know, I just realized it wasn't the pattern for me. And you know, I take it as a sign of my growth as a knitter that I can just stop in the middle of a project and admit to myself it's not going to work. I'm gonna give up on it, and it doesn't mean that it isn't good for somebody, but it isn't for me. So that is that one. Now I also started let's see, I picked back up my half and half triangles wrap, and I think I shared that last time, but I'm not sure. Basically, I had knit one triangle and then been like, I don't know what the other color I want is. So I found the color I want. This is from Holst Garn, and it's the color Tudor. It's in the Tides, Holst Tides, which is a wool and silk blend. It's really vivid, and I like the way it's showing up on camera, because it really is an amazing bold color. And I just really wanted something that had like tons of contrast, tons of impact to look at, and I think I found it. So that's kind of my, when I just want to do some garter stitch, I'm just working on it then project. And I've been knitting on my marble mount pullover, which I think I've talked about plenty before, but I'll just show you what's left of it. I really didn't want to show this at this stage, but I've knit all of it except for the ribbing at the bottom, and it's currently inside out, so I thought I would just go ahead and show you because I wanted to talk about ribbing. So for whatever reason, I always feel like my ribbing that I knit looks better on the reverse side. So this is, I think, a pretty good illustration of, this is the inside of the ribbing that I knit on the sleeve cuff. It's very neat. The knit stitches look amazing. They've got, you know, a lot of definition and are beautiful. So I decided when I got down to the part where I was gonna finish the bottom of the sweater, what I'm gonna do is flip it inside out. I'm gonna slip the first stitch on the row and knit back. So I'm basically, you know, I was knitting in one direction and now I'm just knitting in the other direction because it's inside out. And that will produce a nicer looking ribbing on the outside. So that's the thing you can do. I have, you know, I'm about halfway done with that ribbing, and then and then it will be just a couple rows of stockinette to finish it for that rolled hem. Apologies. Got a frog in my throat. And I'll show you what it looks like for real, what it really looks like on the outside. So this is a really fitted sweater, so it's going to have negative ease. As you can see, it is, yeah, it's gonna have negative ease. It's got this really cool like lace detail that it's like lines radiating out from the collar, and I'm really into that right now. There's a number of sweaters that do that. There's the sorrel is a really popular one. Foxberry is a popular one, which the Foxberry has like cables and bobbles, but it's similar. There's a really cool tank top I can't remember the name of right now. I think this pattern is just absolutely beautiful, and I'm really excited to have it. I'm so glad I did this, you know, knitting the sleeves first, because I think it really motivated me to work on the body more for a while and to not feel like I had so much left. So this is something that, I don't know, maybe you experience when you cast on a top-down sweater. Usually there's some kind of design at the top, and you do that and it's like exciting, right? Because there's stuff happening. And then you get to body island or trunk island, and it's like you're just knitting a cylinder for a while. And it can be, you know, it can be soothing to just have something that's all knit stitches in the round. It can be a little boring too. Kind of bored with it, and then you also know that you have to do the sleeves, which are more of the same. It can be kind of discouraging, so I just decided to do the sleeves first and get that onerous part out of the way, which actually none of it's onerous, right? Like, I love knitting, but I think there's just something about being a process knitter and not being thrilled about the bits you have to do to get the product, you know? I always want to knit the lace. I always want to knit the color work or the cables or whatever, you know, whatever's exciting, even just like increases or whatever, but like just something that makes you want to get just to the next one. But then when you're just knitting plain stockinette in the round, it can be a little dull. Yeah, so I think I've determined that my next garment cast on needs to have no ribbing. I'm so tired of ribbing right now. And it needs to have, or I guess the alternative is I would like to do something that's knit flat and seamed. I've never done that before, but sometimes I think, you know, just like the difference of knitting and purling a row can be enough to make something more interesting, because you've at least got something different going on, right? And when you have to purl a lot, if you don't like purling, you kind of look forward to the knit row. And it also prevents some of the repetitive strain on joints and bones and everything, because I purl with my left hand and knit with my right hand. It's a weird thing I do, but that's basically, you know, means that I'm using different muscles to knit versus to purl, which is why ribbing is so slow for me. I can purl with my right hand. I don't love it. And I find that when I'm purling a lot with my left hand, I can really pick up speed in a way that I just can't, and I get a better tension. So, all right, so that's almost all the whips I have. The last one I have to share is a pair of Raya socks. So this is a new pattern by Mackenzie Mullen. And this sock, you can buy the pattern or you can buy a kit that has like a color combo that was created for the pattern. I had a lot of sock yarn and I'm trying to use it up. So I'm also participating in Mackenzie's sock stash along this year. And I thought, as much as I love that sock kit, it wouldn't make sense to buy more sock yarn when I'm literally trying to knit up my sock yarn this year. And I always end up with a lot of leftovers because I like shorty socks or ankle socks, you know. I don't really like socks that come up high on my leg. It just, I don't know. I find that unnecessary. So I have kind of small feet, and then I also knit short socks. So I usually use like half a skein for a pair of socks for myself. And then, you know, I have a lot of leftovers. So I created this really cool color palette with some leftovers. And if you know, you know, I love blue, and I've been trying to use more blue this year because I have this blue skirt, I have blue dresses, I have blue everything except for knitting for some reason. Not enough blue knitting. So this white yarn is leftover Knit Picks Capretta. It was leftover from a shawl I did, the Brioche Hearts shawl that I did last year, maybe the year before. This is like my all-time favorite. This is from Candy Skein Yarns, and it's the colorway Blue Corn Chip. There's another colorway called like Poppy Seed that's very similar. It's just like maybe even a little bit darker. But I freaking love this. This blue is amazing. So yeah, I'm using up that. And I'm using up a kind of a big mini skein that was really like almost half a skein probably, that I got in a yarn swap a while back. I have no idea what it is, what color it is, but I know that it's sock yarn because everyone was swapping sock yarn. So here's my sock so far. I had an even longer leg and better tension. I had this beautiful sock happening, and I kept trying it on and being like, my goodness, this is really long. And I ended up frogging it back to here and reducing the number of stripes. So the pattern is all about the stripe sequence and the method of weaving in ends, I think. Those are, to me, like the big selling points. Is there's this beautiful stripe sequence that Mackenzie has designed, and it really does look awesome, like with any color combo. So when you see the sample that she knit for the pattern, it's beautiful. And then when you see something completely different like this, it's also beautiful. It's just really cool. So I wanted to maintain the sequence, but I had to reduce the number of rows. I ended up ripping out quite a bit, and now I'm finally to the heel of the sock. I think the next time I knit a pair, so not this pair, but the next pair, I'll probably do a shorter cuff because that just adds like an inch of sock leg I don't need. And this, you know, as the sock leg is about as much as I can handle. I just, yeah, again, I don't love it. And normally, you know, when I have ready to wear socks, I just fold them down if they're longer. But I don't want to do that with a knitted sock. I mean, it's so pretty. I want to look at it, you know? So I do think these are going to be more of like winter socks around the house because I'm going to want to look at them. I don't really knit socks to wear in shoes. I don't know, maybe I will someday, but I don't now. And I think, I know they're going to make me happy because they're just so pretty. And I think on the next one, because I don't have a lot of this, so this is going to be the heel and the toe. I think on the next one, I'm going to reverse it and make this be the cuff, heel, and toe. And then this, the one of the contrast color stripes. I think I have enough yarn to do that. If I don't, we'll see what happens. But since I'm trying to use up sock yarn, I think it doesn't really matter if like a portion of the foot is just one color or something like that. Yeah, that's my other knitting work in progress. I also have a sewing work in progress, which is 90% done. I'm making another Wixton dress. Oh, what a surprise. I have hacked this pattern to within an inch of its life, and I'll tell you what I did different this time. So this time I did not like fully encase this seam. I zigzag stitched the edge of it, and then I did a stitch in the ditch on the sides of the shoulder to just put that neck facing, just to get it, keep it to stay down. Did that way because I felt like it. Another change I made is that on the back there's this kind of like yoke, and then there's like a portion that's gathered. I actually extended the yoke about 1 inch and then just, you know, reduced the gathered portion to match it. Because on my other dresses, I feel like the back yoke is a little short, and what that does, I think, is it puts a lot of weight on a small amount of fabric, and then the whole thing starts to pull back. I don't know if this will really make a difference, but that's what I've done. This is made out of the, oh, I also made very, very short sleeves because I wanted really short sleeves. And instead of those big patch pockets, which I think just don't look great unless you have a pretty sturdy fabric, I have done like, you know, side seam pockets. So I can still have pockets, but not have to do the big patch pockets. Because what I find is with a really lightweight fabric like this, patch pockets just look kind of flabby. I don't know if that's the word, but like they're just like loose, floppy, baggy. Yeah, they're not great looking. And they're also, I think, harder to line up, because if you didn't get them lined up just perfectly, it might look kind of stupid. So yeah, all I have to do is finish the hem, the bottom edge. I also cut the length quite a bit just because I'm short, and so for it to hit me kind of below the knee, mid calf, mid to upper calf, it just has to be like 6 inches shorter than the pattern has. And I do, all my seams are French seams because I don't own a serger, and because I do not like having raggedy looking stuff on the inside. So here's where you can really see it. So this is the inside, there's the seam, it's all, you know, everything's like encased, the raw edges are encased within the seam. That's how I roll. And I think this will be the last of this style of dress that I make for a long time, because I find that this pattern has sufficient flaws for the dress that everything I've made with it is very hit and miss. So if I ever get around to it, I'd love to, you know, wear this for a few months and then do a review of all the Wixton dresses I've made, because at this point, I don't even know if I'm really making a Wixton dress anymore with the amount of modifications I've done. But I have found that pattern to be useful as sort of a beginning place. and then, you know, let my imagination and my needs kind of take me where it goes. So yeah, that is the work in progress on my sewing machine right now. The other thing I just wanted to talk about is, you know, finishing up projects from last year. I have been wanting to get, you know, enough stuff you know, like enough new stuff going that I feel excited about what I'm knitting, but also come back around to some older stuff. And I have been feeling like I had so much that I had to do. And I looked at it recently, and it's actually not that much. I have 2 sweaters that are in various stages of doneness. So let's pull them out and let's, basically what I know for sure is that there are only 3 project bags in here with stuff that I need to finish from last year, which is about 2 less than what I thought there were. So here is my rook sweater. At some point, I'm gonna pick this back up. I'm glad the light lets you see how beautiful this is. So that white is waste yarn. It's just, I'm gonna pull it out and knit a collar later. But this is the Harrisville Designs Nightshades. This is a pattern from Brooklyn Tweed. And it just has this really great like cable detail that goes like down each arm and then also down the body. And I've got a decent amount done. I would say I'm at least 50% done with this. And so I will happily pick this back up at some point. Here's another project that I have many more skeins in waiting for. But also I have like 3 skeins in here. I don't know if you can see that. I've got 3 balls of yarn in here. So this is the Fiber Company's Canopy, I believe, in this beautiful sarsaparilla color. All my colors are kind of dark and moody today, huh? I can dig it. And this is the beginnings of a shawl that I know is going to be probably a long time going, but actually just looking at it, and because I'm knitting so much stockinette right now, I'm sort of like, maybe I want to pick this back up sooner rather than later, because yeah, it's very satisfying when you knit like beautiful lace and then you look at it. Yeah, that's pretty stunning. So this is a really cool pattern, and I know that I should finish it. I know I'm gonna love it. I'm still very excited to have it, but there's a lot. It's very advanced knitting techniques, I would say, and I love lace, and so I'm not intimidated by lace, but like, it just takes a lot of time to do this one. And so it's like the kind of project I have to sit and like focus on. And finally, I have a sweater that you've definitely seen before, in this wonderful Grinchy green that I'm telling myself is not Grinchy, but this sweater is like also 99% done. What I have decided to do after some deliberation and basically whinging on my part is I'm gonna pick up and finish the collar, all right? I'm going to do the cuffs because the sleeves are done other than that dang ribbing on the cuffs. And then I'm gonna rip out the bottom edge and I'm gonna add a few more inches to it because, oh, okay, that was a fuzz. I had like a moment of panic that I was seeing like moth something. Anyway, yeah, because I basically am just like, you know, I really do like it and it's gonna be fabulous, but the design was not intended to be cropped and it's a heavier sweater. So I think a big slouchy sweater will be better than a crop sweater that then just like grows with its own weight and becomes slouchy, you know what I mean? Like lean into the like oversized coziness of it. So yeah, I have to finish that. It's been a labor of love. This project has been more or less on my needles for several years. I think I bought this yarn in like 2019 and cast something on, knit an entire sweater, frogged it. Well, not an entire sweater. I knit like 3/4 of a sweater and frogged it, and then found a better pattern for it, yada yada. You've heard the story. The only thing I have left to talk about is what I'm reading. So I went to Boswell Books, which is my favorite, probably my favorite or second favorite bookstore in Milwaukee. And right in the window, they had this book, and all I could see was the back of it. And there's this adorable child. And I was like, what is this book? It's Viola Davis's autobiography, memoir. Wow. Okay. Wow. This is a really good book. It is very hard to read. I'm reading it in small bursts, I would say. But the first time I picked it up, I read to like page 40 or something. I don't know. I think it was like 40 or 50 pages that I read like just immediately. And it was like, I wasn't even planning on reading. I just like opened it and was like, what's this? Pretty soon my butt touched the couch and I was super into it. And then I read a few more chapters the other night. And I just tip my hat to her courage. And I think the healing she must have done, because I think it takes an immense amount of bravery to put a story like this out there. She had a very rough, disturbing, traumatic childhood, and so I would say don't read this before you go to sleep, you know, like, or, you know, read this when you're feeling really safe and comfortable, I guess, you know. It's a fantastic book though, and her voice as a writer really comes through. It doesn't feel like ghost written the way a lot of, you know, celebrity memoirs kind of do. And I think there's just so much value in hearing people tell their stories, but it's also really hard to hear about someone suffering, especially. I think what really hits hard is seeing, you know, like here she is as a small child, and then you think like this small child is like going through so much. That's very hard. And I think it's really clever, I guess, to put that picture on the back, and it's very powerful. And, you know, I guess if you don't feel like you want to protect children from harm, then I don't know how to relate to that. But I think like I would assume most people feel like protective of small children, right? And you don't want anything bad to happen to them. So it's really, yeah, it's just really touching and intense in a lot of ways. But I would totally recommend reading this, and I'm very excited to get to the parts of her life that I'm more familiar with, because I think you know, before picking this up, my whole knowledge of Viola Davis was that she was this incredible actress, you know. So I think, yeah, like to sort of see that. And then, you know, I think something when you're watching an artist and all you know is that they're very good at what they do. I mean, if you've seen her in any movie, you know she's incredible at tapping into emotions. And then reading this, I think, gives a sense of like, oh, that's where that comes from, you know. This is a person who has not lacked emotional experiences in their life, you know. So yeah, I would recommend reading this book. And you know, if there are new viewers, I don't always talk about books, but I've been talking about books more and more, and yeah, I think it's just like another way to connect. I think there's a big overlap in the Venn diagram of people who knit and people who read. And I find that a lot of knitting podcasts talk about books that are like not my kind of book. Like maybe a little more like fluffy, lighthearted, very lean heavily into fiction, which is fine. I love fiction. But you know, I do want to talk about books, especially when I'm reading like a memoir or nonfiction or poetry or something that's different, because I think I just don't see that in other knitting podcasts. So I don't know, tell me what you think about that. Do you read these kind of books, or are you just kind of into Outlander and A Court of Thorns and Roses? Which is fine if you are. It's like I feel like I hear about the same 10 books, right, in all of the knitting podcasts I watch. So I'm just trying to bring something different. No shame on what anybody likes, you know, as long as you're reading, you're doing the Lord's work. And I think, yeah, I think it's so interesting to hear about other things that people are reading. And I'm not super into BookTube either. I think there are a few booktubers I follow, bookstagrammers, but yeah, that could consume my life real fast, and I have to protect my knitting space. So that is it for today. Yeah, I think I've covered it all. I'm definitely going to be sewing a lot more in the near future and picking up some more books. I'm probably going to chase this book with a very happy-go-lucky book. So I have purchased the Hill House Living book that I said I wasn't going to purchase. I purchased it anyway in preparation for soothing my sad feelings after I finish this memoir. And I hope that you're going to have a lot of restful knitting time, a lot of reading time, and you're going to eat some good snacks and have some sunshine, but not too much. I bid you adieu.